Hello and welcome to CATSweek. I'm Annalise Poorman. At the Bloomington Historic Preservation Commission meeting on August 8th, the Commission discussed the Green Acres Conservation District. Historic Preservation Program Manager Noah Sandwise shared information on the meeting room where they will hold a public vote on the Conservation District.
I had initially reserved the City Council chambers. It was going to be great. There was an issue where, I don't know, somebody hit their mouse and deleted an item that was on the city calendar already for 5:30. That was another regularly planned, I believe, commission meeting in City Council chambers at that time. So I got the next largest room that I could find, which is the Hooker Conference Room on the second floor. It's pretty far from ideal, and I apologize about that. There will be a Zoom meeting, so people can attend on Zoom as well.
The meeting will take place on August 12th in the Hooker Conference Room at City Hall. Sandwise shared that the demolition delay is scheduled to expire 2 days after the public hearing, giving them time to take a vote on the Conservation District.
The demolition delay on these houses is set to expire on August 14th. The special meeting is going to be on August 12th, so that will give the Commission a chance to vote before the release of the demolition delay.
The next Bloomington Historic Preservation Commission meeting will be held on August 22nd. The Election Board held a special session on August 8th to take action on candidate Randy Cassidy's letter of resignation from the County Commissioner District 2 campaign. On July 30th, 2024, Democratic Chair David Henry submitted a challenge to the candidacy on the grounds that Cassidy did not meet the residency requirements. County Attorney Molly Turner King explained that the following Election Board meeting on August 1st, they received a stipulation of facts that was submitted by Democratic Party Chair David Henry, candidate in question, Randy Cassidy, and Cassidy's legal counsel, Allison Weber.
So the document that I have is entitled Stipulation of Facts by the Party, and it reads, Comes now the challenger David G. Henry and the challenged candidate Randy Cassidy with representation of counsel Allison Weber. Together, the parties hereby agree to stipulate to the following facts with regard to the candidate challenge filed on July 30th, 2024. Number one, on June 25th, 2024, Randy Cassidy filed the declaration of candidacy and written consent to fill a ballot vacancy in 2024 from the Monroe County form with the Monroe County Election Office. The form declared Cassidy's candidacy for the November 2024 general election for the office of Monroe County Commissioner District 2. Additionally, the form listed Cassidy's residence as 526 North Morton Street, apartment number 403, Bloomington, Indiana, 47404, a residence within District 2. 2. On July 30th, 2024, David G. Henry, the county chairman for the Democratic Party, filed the candidate filing challenge form with the Monroe County Election Office. The challenge questioned the eligibility of candidate Randy Cassidy in the election of the County Commissioner District 2. Attached to Henry's challenge was a letter outlining the basis for his challenge. The letter, in part, challenges Cassidy's candidacy on the basis of whether Cassidy meets the residency requirements set forth in Indiana Code 38121-2. 3. Pursuant to Indiana Code 38121-2, a candidate for the office of County Commissioner must have resided in the district in which the candidate is seeking election for at least 6 months before the election. 4. At the August 1st, 2024 meeting of the Monroe County Election Board, the candidate challenged was acknowledged and a hearing was set for August 8th, 2024. 5. At the August 1st, 2024 Election Board meeting, Mr. Cassidy, with his counsel present, voluntarily addressed the Election Board. Cassidy provided a copy of a lease dated May 6th, 2024 for his Morton Street residence. Cassidy advised the Election Board that he was originally led to believe by the Indiana Election Division that he met the 6-month residency requirement for candidacy. However, upon further re-examination of the residency requirement, Cassidy acknowledged that he did not meet the requirement and expressed his intent to suspend his campaign effective immediately. 6. Any other allegation regarding Cassidy's eligibility for candidacy set forth in the candidate challenge filed by Henry is moot. The residency requirement question is dispositive of the question at hand. Therefore, no other allegation needs to be addressed. 7, based solely on the above stated facts, both the challenger David G. Henry and the challenged candidate Randy Cassidy, with the consultation of retained counsel, stipulate that Cassidy does not meet the residency requirements set forth in Indiana Code 381.21.2, and as a result is ineligible for candidacy for County Commissioner District 2. The parties stipulate that the filed candidacy challenge should be upheld to effectively remove Mr. Cassidy's name from the November 5th, 2024 general election ballot. 8, all parties have entered into the stipulation of facts voluntarily. And 9, the parties intend to provide the stipulation of facts to the election board at the hearing held on August 8th, 2024. All parties acknowledge they will be afforded the opportunity to be heard and present evidence on the above referenced matter at the scheduled hearing. However, neither party wishes to introduce additional comments or evidence and submits this stipulation in lieu thereof. And the document was signed by Mr. Henry, Mr. Cassidy, and Ms. Weber as Mr. Cassidy's counsel, and it was dated today.
The board voted unanimously to accept the stipulation of facts, uphold the challenge of candidacy, and remove Randy Cassidy from the ballot. The Bloomington City Council met for its regular session on August 7th. During the meeting, Mayor Carrie Thompson touched on encampments and service provider recommendations for unhoused individuals. The mayor's report comes after the city released a new housing action plan conducted by Heading Home of South Central Indiana. The action plan is a 20-page report providing a strategy for addressing street homelessness in the community. Mayor Thompson began by explaining the city's defense of recent closures of encampments in Bloomington.
As you know, since January, we have closed 4 different encampments in the city of Bloomington, and we were set to close another one on Monday. These are some of the most difficult days that I have faced in office so far. And we have postponed the encampment closure that was supposed to happen on Monday because many of our partners that have street outreach workers are not fully staffed right now. And so they asked for more time to be able to do additional outreach to people living in those camps. And we postponed for that reason. Many of the people living in that camp have already moved, and we believe our count today is that there are 14 or 15 people in that camp now. So we will be closing it as it continues to have safety challenges, but we are deeply grateful for the work of the many outreach workers and our DROs at the City of Bloomington for the work that they do every day. I will be talking more about the need for outreach and case management later in my report, but I know we have some folks here that are that in fact worked on this plan that I will be talking about tonight, and head up the organizations that have these outreach workers, and our community really owes them a debt of gratitude for all of the work that they do.
Then Mayor Thompson provided background on the new housing action plan addressing the increase of street homelessness in the community.
In May, as we were facing another camp closure, I met with a couple of representatives from housing organizations, and I asked them for a plan for what we should do as a city as we're facing camp after camp that becomes unsafe and we need to move them. And they asked for some time to get together with their colleagues and come up with an actual plan rather than responding in the moment what would be best. And so Heading Home has graciously gathered that team of shelter providers and outreach organizations together, and that group put together a plan to address street homelessness. I want to be clear that this plan is a plan to address the growing number of people living outside. It is not a replacement to the existing Heading Home plan. It is in addition to that plan, And that Heading Home plan has been in the process of being implemented now for years, and we are making progress on that plan. This housing action plan that we're discussing tonight has 10 different recommendations. Do you all have that in front of you? Okay, so this was released publicly yesterday. There are links available to it. I want to discuss some of the aspects of this plan and just briefly review it with you. As you may have seen, our point-in-time count from January, we do that every January, as does the rest of the nation, showed a dramatic rise in street homelessness in the Monroe County region. Much of that is occurring within our city limits. Our count, in fact, doubled in our region year to year. Bloomington is not alone in seeing a rise in street homelessness. We do join with the rest of the country in facing this crisis, but our street homelessness count has risen faster than the average in Indiana.
The Housing Action Plan has 10 recommendations in an effort to combat the prevalence of street homelessness in Bloomington. Mayor Thompson walked through these recommendations. First, to support coordinated street outreach and linkage to services. That includes emergency shelter and housing. So that is the street outreach that is currently working, but this plan asks for more. We are not meeting the HUD recommendations of the number of street outreach workers. Additionally, we need to strengthen our case management support. That's gonna demand more caseworkers. And our partners at Bloomington Health Foundation are working on a plan to recruit and hire and train some community navigators. These case managers are in addition to those. Additionally, strengthen diversion efforts. This is the work to prevent homelessness. So this is when we're looking at people who are at risk of being evicted, people who are currently housed where their housing may not be stable. Heading Home is already doing this work, but we need more of it. Our fourth recommendation is, as a short-term measure to address the inflow, enact a temporary moratorium on welcoming people from outside of our region to overnight emergency shelters, and to provide reunification services for out-of-region people, exploring ways to mitigate the increase of non-regional residents experiencing homelessness. So the group that made this plan did not reach 100% on this recommendation, but the bulk of our shelter providers are on board with this recommendation. And so this involves sheltering people for a short period of time while these case managers work with them to get back to where their safety nets are, back to where their family is. In Indiana, outside of Bloomington and Indianapolis, we have more than 120 shelters. So if people are coming from within the state, there are many, many other shelters available. And what we know is when we disconnect people from their safety nets, it becomes harder and harder to restore those. Next, increase the number of housing units with rents under $500 a month. This comes as a recommendation in the recent ROI study. So you've heard it before. People are not making enough money to pay the rents that we have in our community. As a former housing provider, I will tell you, in today's market, this, by definition, means that we either need to do housing differently or we need to heavily subsidize those units. It's impossible to build a full apartment and break even at $500 a month. So these would need to be subsidized, or we would have to have a different model of housing. Bolster security and services for permanent supportive housing to reduce exits to homelessness. This is, it's critically important. When we put together permanent housing, it must have security and it must have supportive services.
Many people who are newly housed are going to need intensive case management as well as other supports for a number of months and perhaps even years. Finally, two final recommendations. Increase the number of beds for medical respite. When I asked how many we would need, these are people who may be coming out of the hospital and then released directly back into an encampment where no one can really heal. So the recommendation is really that we need about 10 beds for medical respite, and that would come with some supportive services. And then finally, to determine any need for additional shelter beds. We do have empty shelter beds in our community every night, enough that would have fully housed the number of people living in the encampment that we are currently working on closing. So the community really needs to look at why are people not using those shelter beds and what barriers are there to using them.
The mayor says that the plan was assembled by local organizations and service providers using the Housing First approach, which prioritizes providing permanent housing to people experiencing homelessness. According to the National Alliance to End Homelessness, this approach says that people need basic necessities like food and a place to live before attending to anything less critical like getting a job, budgeting properly, or attending to substance abuse issues.
All of our work in housing is on a Housing First model. That is based on the premise that people need to be housed before they can work on other challenges in their lives because they're spending all of their energy just trying to survive. Housing is medicine. It is healthcare. And we are going to see continued negative impacts on our healthcare system if we can't get people housed. We're also seeing many other impacts in our community, I think, as we all know. It's impacting our community morale, it's impacting our downtown businesses, it's impacting public health and safety. And it's really imperative that we work on this. This is the housing part of the plan. The city, as elected officials, it is our imperative to take care of the rest of what's needed. So it is our job to work on safety and our job to start looking at what other partners we need at the table. There are many partners that are called out in this plan. It's going to take state, federal, county, and private investment to get a comprehensive plan working to actually solve this.
Councilmember Isak Asari asked whether steps from the Housing Action Plan would be included in the city's budget for next year.
Or should we expect to see some of this reflected in the upcoming budget for next year? Or
you absolutely will see this reflected in the budget, and now that we have a housing plan, the administration's intent is to start putting together all of the action pieces. We've already been working on some of them to get our downtown and neighborhood safety and vitality improved.
During public comment, a local resident named Grayley pushed back against the city's planned evictions of homeless encampments, using public safety concerns as justification for the removal of those encampments.
Good evening. Hello, everyone. My name is Grayley, and as a young trans woman, I know what it's like to fear for my safety. And I'm here today to talk about the safety concerns regarding the Bloomington Rail Trail. So the rail trail is very close to my home. I often walk there alone at night, usually wearing what you see, wearing only this, nothing else on me. I recently heard that the city is moving to clear out all of the camps along the rail trail, citing in part public safety concerns. And this was a move that shocked me. I understand and appreciate the steps that you all are taking to give unhoused folks more permanent housing options. These are certainly steps in the right direction, and I thank you for that. But the fact of the matter is that right now, kicking people out of camps means kicking people out of the only option that they have and leaving them on the streets. Regarding the public safety concerns that were cited, I did read the relevant U report file that refers to 2 to 3 individuals at a camp yelling at each other. And to me, that feels no different than a domestic dispute between people within their own home. The only difference to me is that these people do not have the privilege of a roof over their head. Personally, I have never felt unsafe while using the rail trail. If I had the time, I would love to tell you in depth the story of the time I was having a crisis late at night, and somebody on the rail trail who lives at one of those camps lent me his flashlight and offered to walk with me to my house. He really saved me that night. And ever since that night, I have taken the time to actually get to know everyone who lives on those camps. And now I can proudly say that these are my neighbors, and I love my neighbors. And I'm not trying to tell you that they're perfect, because they're not. But I will tell you that if you take the time to get to know these people that you were afraid of, you'll find that there's nothing to fear. I would like to politely encourage everyone to, as I recently had to do myself, think about how your biases against the unhoused community are reflected in the way that you view and interact with them. Thank you.
The City Council will meet again on Wednesday, August 21st. At the Monroe County Commissioners meeting on August 7th, Health Department Director Lori Kelly informed the commissioners about increasing COVID-19 cases detected in the community.
Good morning, commissioners. So just a few updates for you. Emergency room visits for COVID-like illnesses have not increased as of July 30th, but our wastewater detections have seen increases, so we do know that COVID is circulating in the area. The health department does still have free COVID tests available. You can walk in Monday through Friday from 8 to 4. And vaccines are available through the public health clinic located at 333 Miller Drive in Bloomington. You can call 812-353-3244 for an appointment.
Before approving the claims docket, which includes the accounts payable and payroll, Commissioner Penny Githens shared her findings on the amount of money that they have been spending to maintain the jail facility.
You know, we've been pushing to get decisions made about funding for a new jail and justice complex. And as I was going through the claims this week, I started adding things up, and between the jail and the justice building itself, just in claims this week, just 1 week, and this is not the things like food for people who are incarcerated, this is not clothing, this is, this is really just upkeep of that building. And it does not take into account what we pay for the maintenance staff that's there. Over $12,000 in 1 week. So we could easily rack up $500,000 just in general claims in a year, and that's in addition to the $500,000 that we have allocated for new locks. So delay is costly.
The commissioners unanimously voted to approve the claims docket. Later in the meeting, County Attorney David Schilling asked the commissioners to approve a retainer agreement with Eubanks and Associates for the Houston South project.
This is relating to the Houston South project. The U.S. Forest Service's logging and burning and forest management project down in Jackson County, which we believe will have an impact on Lake Monroe. And so we've been involved in litigation with the Forest Service for a couple of years now. And in response to that, they produced a supplemental environmental assessment. And they're on the verge, we believe, of getting ready to finalize that. And the position that the county has taken all along is that a more rigorous study, an environmental impact statement, is required under NEPA. And so if the Forest Service finalizes their supplemental environmental assessment, we will, with the signing of this agreement, we will have counsel in place to challenge that immediately. And so we've used the firm of Eubanks and Associates to great success over the last couple of years. And so we just want to have them waiting in case we need them. That's what this agreement would do.
The commissioners voted to approve the retainer agreement unanimously. The last item on the agenda was a rezone request for a property located on West State Road. Planning Department Senior Planner Drew Myers summarized the request for the commissioners. Myers explained that the property currently has 2 zoning designations. It is zoned for limited business and general business. The petitioner, Rajesh Patel, and their representative, Mike Carmen, are asking for the whole lot to be zoned for general business to allow them to build a convenience convenience store, gas station, office, and arcade on the property.
Request is to rezone the property from general business, from a split zone of limited business and general business to general business. The purpose of this rezone request is to provide the right zoning district for a mixed-use classification on the property. Initially, that use was identified as commercial/industrial adaptive reuse, which would allow a convenience store, park and recreation services, and an office land use all in the same property. Now, the convenience store does allow for gasoline sales, so the petitioner is interested in constructing a gas station with convenience store there. Park and recreation services, that was the use that planning staff assigned to the petitioner's request for a arcade that will be housed in an existing utility structure on the property, or excuse me, an accessory structure on the property. And the office will be located in a pre-existing home that is vacant currently, and that will be converted into an office use. Originally, the petitioner had interest in maintaining it as a residence. However, incorporating a residence and these additional commercial uses on one property, the only way forward through that would have been a planned unit development, not a rezone. So the petitioner did not want to seek a planned unit development, so they talked with us at the planning department about their alternative options, and one of those being a mixed-use land use classification of commercial/industrial adaptive reuse. That particular use is only permitted in the general business district, so there cannot be a split zoning on the property, hence why this request is before you.
Myers said that the Plan Commission voted in favor of the rezone request with a unanimous vote of 7-0. Commissioner Githens shared some of her concerns about the development.
I guess I'd really like to make sure that we don't have a lot of additional impervious surfaces that go into this. I am concerned about the karst feature that's there and how that drains into underground stuff that we don't even see. And then I've emailed Drew about this, but Mr. Myers, rather. I wonder about the septic. I know that commercial septic is available, but I don't know if the petitioners have pursued this to ensure that it would be sufficient not only for the gas station and convenience store, but also for some kind of arcade/entertainment center along with any kind of office building.
Myers responded to her concerns, but said that he would have to defer to other professionals to answer the questions about commercial septic systems.
Although I can't speak to the engineering of a commercial septic system on the site, I do know that some properties are able to incorporate that as a way around having to connect to sewer. But I would have to defer to the health department or other professionals to evaluate if one or maybe multiple commercial septic systems would be needed. And as regard to impervious surface, that would be something that comes up with the stormwater and the storm division and the stormwater ordinance. They do have strong language now about impervious surface coverage, as well as buffering that existing karst feature on the property.
The commissioners voted unanimously to approve the rezone request. And that is all for CATSweek. Thank you for joining us. For CATS and WFHB, I'm Annalise Poorman.